In this video, I will be explaining what are adverbs and adverbials and their differences. Does it add meaning only to the verbs or more? I will also explain about the types of adverbs and adverbials with examples and help you to clear your doubts on the topic. Welcome, I'm Seema from Edufinite. Without much ado, let's delve into the topic. And if you have any queries, you can ask me in the comment section. Now, what is an adverbial? Well, an adverbial in a sentence can be a word, a phrase, or a clause that performs the function of an adverb. That means it describes or modifies either a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So, an adverbial focuses on the function. Function of what? Its function is similar to that of an adverb. And what does an adverb do? An adverb describes or modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Now we'll come to the examples a bit later. First, let's understand it. Or even a whole sentence or an independent clause. So sometimes an adverbial can modify a whole sentence, or if it's a clause, it will modify the independent clause. Now, when is it an adverb? It's an adverb when an adverbial is a single word. So, all adverbs are adverbials. You can call the adverbs as adverbials because adverbial is a category under which the adverb falls. And when the adverbial is a phrase, it can be an adverb phrase, it can be a prepositional phrase, or it can be an infinitive phrase. Why? Because all these three phrases perform the function of an adverb. That means they tell us more about a verb or an adjective or an adverb in a sentence. Each of these, the adverb phrase, the prepositional phrase, as well as the infinitive phrase. So these three phrases are also known as adverbial. So that's why sometimes people ask questions. Are all adverbs adverbials? Yes, they are. But are all adverbials adverbs? No, they are not. Because here you see prepositional phrases, infinitive phrases do perform the task of an adverb. That means they do tell us more about the verb, or maybe about the adjective, or maybe about another adverb in a sentence. So, they are called adverbials and not adverbs because they do not have adverbs in them. Prepositional phrase begins with a preposition and an infinitive phrase begins with to. So, the next one is when an adverbial is a clause, it will always be a dependent clause. Then it is called an adverb clause or an adverbial clause. They always begin with subordinating conjunctions like whether, because, as if, until, while, as soon as, after, anything. So, they always begin with a subordinating conjunction. Why? Because that's a dependent clause. It cannot convey the meaning on its own. It has to depend on the independent clause to give the full meaning of the sentence. Okay, now first we'll focus on adverbs, then we'll go to adverb phrases and then the adverb clauses, and then look into the examples to understand it much better. Now, what is an adverb? We've done it right from our childhood and all of us know. An adverb is a part of speech and is a single word in a sentence that describes or modifies either a verb, Let's look into the example. The play ended. Now the play ended, ended is the verb. Now how will the adverb modify it? Let's look. The play ended quickly. So the word quickly is telling us how the play ended. We are very, not very happy because it ended too quickly. We were enjoying the play, wish it could have continued on for some more time. So we said, or I said rather, the play ended quickly. So quickly is telling us how the play ended. It ended too soon. Next, let's see how it modifies an adjective. Rohan is strong. Rohan is what? Strong. So strong is an adjective. Now how do we modify it? We'll take the help of an adverb to modify it or to describe it a little more. Rohan is very strong. So how strong? Very strong. So very is modifying or telling us more about the adjective strong. Hence, very is an adverb. Next, it will tell us more about another adverb. So let's look into that. And another adverb. So let's look into the sentence. As we've already done, the play ended quickly. So we know quickly is an adverb. Now, how do we modify it further? Well, we can say the play ended too quickly. So this too, the word too, is telling us how quickly the play ended. So that's modifying the adverb quickly. So this too is an adverb. Now, how does an adverb modify a whole sentence? Okay. We weren't hurt. Maybe we fell down or something, some accident took place, some small accident, and we just said we weren't hurt. Now, we can add something and then say the sentence. For example, luckily, we weren't hurt. So, we are feeling lucky that by God's grace, we were not hurt in spite of the little accident that took place. Now, how an adverb is formed? Well, usually an adverb is formed by adding "ly" to its adjective. That means to the adjective words. For example, slow. Slow is an adjective. You add "ly" to it, it becomes slowly, and that's adverb. Again, correct. Correct is an adjective. You add "ly" to it, and it becomes correctly, and that's adverb. And again, neat is an adjective. Neat writing, neat dress. So telling us more about the nouns, that's an adjective. And we add "ly" to it and it becomes neatly. So neatly is formed from its adjective neat by adding "ly" to it. Similarly, quickly, which is an adjective, is formed by adding "ly" to its adjective form, that is quick. Okay, next. But there are some adverbs of manner that have the same spelling as their adjectives. They look similar, but they play the role of adverbs because they'll tell us more about the verb and not about the noun, because if they tell us more about the noun, then it becomes an adjective. And so we sometimes do get confused because there is no "ly", but then you'll have to see which word is it qualifying. Is it qualifying a verb? If it's qualifying a verb, then it is an adverb. But if it's qualifying a noun, then of course it will be an adjective. For example, the students work hard. Now we know hard is an adjective. The sum is very hard. So we're telling about the sum. So that's adjective over there. But over here we are saying students work hard. The effort they are putting in. What effort? Hard. Hard effort. Lot of effort. So hard is an adverb in this sentence as it's qualifying the verb work. Next, the man drives fast. So here fast is telling us how the man is driving. He's driving fast. So fast tells us more about the verb drives. So that's an adverb. Next, Rana sings well. Okay, so how does Rana sing? He sings well. So well is an adverb. Now, what is an adverbial phrase? Okay, an adverbial phrase in a sentence is a small group of words. That means two words or more than two words. without a subject and a finite verb. So you have to remember, a phrase will never have a subject, never have a finite verb. But it will be a group of words and can be centered around an adverb. So its main word can be an adverb. So that's an adverb phrase because it has an adverb in it. Or can be a prepositional phrase. It will begin with a preposition, or an infinitive phrase. That means it will begin with to and have the first form of the verb that describes or modifies either a verb. For example, she writes. So writes is the verb over here. And how do we modify it with a phrase? We can say she writes as neatly as possible. So as neatly as possible is the adverb phrase. Here, neatly is the adverb. So it's an adverb phrase. Again, we can say they were sitting on the sofa. Where were they sitting? On the sofa. So on the sofa, this phrase is telling us more about the verb sitting. But on the sofa, it begins with on, so that's a prepositional phrase. So this prepositional phrase is telling us more about the action sitting or the verb sitting. So this is an adverbial phrase. Next, he decided to work the hardest. So again, to work is the infinitive, and so this is the infinitive phrase. So it is telling us what he decided, telling us more about the verb decided. What did he decide? He decided to work the hardest. So this infinitive phrase is giving us more idea about the verb decided. Hence, this is an adverbial phrase. Why? Because the main important thing about an adverbial phrase is it functions like an adverb. So here, though it is an infinitive phrase, it is functioning as an adverb, telling us more about the verb decided. So this is an adverbial phrase. So you see, an adverbial phrase or an adverbial, you can say, is not an adverb, but an adverb is always an adverbial. Okay, next, an adjective. Rohan is strong. We've already done that. Strong is the adjective. Now, how do we say it with a phrase? Rohan is strong like a lion. So we're comparing him with a lion. He has the strength of a lion. He's very strong. So like a lion is the adverbial phrase. Next, it tells us more about another adverb. So let's look into the sentence. The play ended quickly. Now, quickly was the adverb. We had done it earlier. So let's see how it modifies it. The play ended just too quickly. So just to, these two words, as I told you, two or more group of words. So here, these two words, just to, is an adverbial phrase. Now, it even modifies a whole sentence. Let's look into that. We weren't hurt. We have already done it with the adverb. Now, let's look how we do it with an adverbial phrase. Luckily enough, we weren't hurt. So, two words. Again, this is an adverbial phrase. Luckily enough is an adverbial phrase. Now, let's move on to adverbial clause. Now, an adverbial clause in a sentence is a dependent clause, as I told you earlier. That means on its own, it will not be able to give you the complete idea of the sentence. So what is the criteria of a clause? Well, it will have a subject and a finite verb in it. Phrases don't have that. But in a clause, there is a subject and a finite verb. And it will begin with a subordinating conjunction. Like though, because, it, if, until, when, etc. And are dependent on the independent clause, as I told you. Why? For expressing the complete idea of the sentence. They usually describe or modify the main verb of the independent clause. So the independent clause on which it is dependent for the whole idea, it will modify the verb present in that independent clause, the main verb. For example, I can't find the keys. This is the independent clause. I can't find the keys. Independent clauses always give you the complete idea on its own. So I can't find the keys, of course, it's giving us the idea that somehow I've misplaced it, I just can't find it. Next, we add a dependent clause to it. Though I have looked for them everywhere. So, why is it dependent? It's beginning with a subordinating conjunction, though. And of course, it has I as a subject, have looked as the verb. Or rather, they looked as the finite verb. So, though I've looked for them everywhere is the dependent clause. Though I've looked for them everywhere, what does it do? It actually modifies why I can't find them. I have looked for them everywhere. Though I've looked in every nook and corner, but still I can't find the keys. Next, you must study hard. This is the independent clause. You must study hard. Now here the main verb is study. And then we add a dependent clause to it. Until your exams are over. So, how much must you study hard, or till what period must you study hard? Until your exams are over. So, until your exams are over, this does not give the whole idea. But if you say you must study hard until your exams are over, it gives the complete idea. So, you see, until your exams are over, this begins with until, that's a subordinating conjunction, and your is the subject, are over, or are is the verb over here. So, until your exams are over is telling us what? How much you must study. You must study till the period your exams are over. So, until it's over, you have to continue studying. Okay, the next. So, here what is happening? The adverbial clause starts with the subordinating conjunction until and modifies the main verb study, as I told you. Next, we come to types of adverbials. So, adverbials provide us relevant information about the manner, place, frequency, time, degree or quality, reason or other circumstances of activity, denoted by the words they modify. So, they modify certain words, and those words they modify tell us about the manner or the place, the frequency, time, reason, quantity, anything, and tend to answer the questions. So, what are the questions? How. When we ask the question how, that's adverb of manner. And let's look into a sentence. He runs. How does he run? He runs swiftly. So, this swiftly is adverb of manner. This is an adverb. One word, adverb. Next. He runs swiftly like a rabbit. So, this is a phrase. It tells us how. How does he run? He runs swiftly like a rabbit. Next is, unless you run swiftly, you will not be able to defeat him. So, unless you run swiftly is the dependent clause or the adverbial clause, and it begins with the subordinating conjunction unless. Now, for your understanding, what have I done? I have highlighted all the dependent clauses, and the subordinating conjunctions has been italicized. Subjects are in green, verbs are in blue, and the adverbs are in red. So, that way you'll be able to understand it. Okay. Now, since this dependent clause is at the beginning of the sentence, we have to put a comma after it. If the dependent clause is placed before the independent clause, then you have to put a comma after it and separate the independent clause from the dependent clause. But if the dependent clause is put after the independent clause, then we never put any commas. Okay. So, unless you run swiftly, you will not be able to defeat him. So, telling us more why you have to run swiftly, because you will not be able to defeat him. It's focusing on your inability to defeat. if you'll not be able to defeat him. So it's warning you. How will you be able to defeat him? If you run fast. So unless you run fast, you will not be able to defeat him. Next is where, adverb of place. That tells us when you ask questions where, that gives us the answer of adverbs of place. I looked for them. Where did I look for them? I looked for them there. That's adverb. I looked for them right there. That's an adverbial phrase. I looked for them where I could possibly find them. Now, where I could possibly find them is the adverbial clause beginning with the subordinating conjunction where. Now, next is the question how often. Now, that tells us about the adverbs of frequency. How often does it happen? So, that's adverbs of frequency. I come here. How often? Weekly. So, I come here weekly. This weekly is the adverb. Next, I come here every week. So, that's the adverbial phrase. Next, I come here whenever I am free. So, whenever I am free is the adverbial clause beginning with a subordinating conjunction whenever. Now, this is a dependent clause and I come here is the independent clause. Next, when. When is adverb of time. So, they visited the zoo. When did they visit the zoo? So, the answer is yesterday. So, the word yesterday is an adverb. Next, they visited the zoo the day before. So, the day before is the adverbial or adverb phrase. Next, they visited the zoo after their school was over. So, after their school was over is the adverbial clause or the dependent clause beginning with subordinating conjunction after, and it's dependent on the independent clause they visited the zoo. Next is to what degree or how much. Now, this is the adverb of degree or quantity. She is beautiful. How beautiful? To what? How beautiful is she? Or to what degree is she beautiful? She is extremely beautiful. So, this tells us extremely is the adverb, describing more about the adjective beautiful. Next, she is beautiful like an angel. So, how beautiful is she? Like an angel. So, like an angel is the adverbial phrase. She is beautiful, but her sister is more beautiful. So, there is a comparison. She is beautiful, but her sister is more beautiful is the adverbial clause beginning with the subordinating conjunction but, and it tells us, there is a comparison. Her sister is more beautiful. So, she is beautiful, but her sister is more beautiful. Now, again, we ask the question why. When we ask the question why and we get the answer, that's the adverb of reason or cause. She eats vegetables. Why? To stay healthy. So, to stay healthy is the adverbial phrase. She eats vegetables so that she remains healthy. So that she remains healthy is the adverbial clause and it begins with the subordinating conjunction so that. So, I guess you've got some idea about adverbials and adverbs. They have the same function, but adverb is a single word and adverbials can be a single word, it can be a phrase, it can be a clause. So that's all for today. Hope the lesson was helpful. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section. I'll be back with a video very soon. Till then, Take care, stay safe, be happy.